The sun hadn't yet broken through the horizon when the black SUV screeched to a halt on the dusty street. The engine died. Silence swallowed the moment. And then the door opened. A woman stepped out. Not the kind you'd expect to see in this neighborhood. Designer heels clicking against cracked pavement. A face that had graced magazine covers, now pale with desperation. Her eyes wild, frantic, searching. She turned to the gathering crowd, and her voice cracked with a panic that money couldn't mask. Please, please, someone tell me. Where's the old widow? The one who used to sit here every morning. I need to find her. It's life or death. The people stared. Some whispered. Some looked away. And one old man spat on the ground and muttered something under his breath about karma. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Because to understand why a billionaire would fall to her knees begging for a homeless woman, we need to go back. Back to where it all began. Back to before the fall. Before the reckoning. Before the world learned that sometimes the poorest among us hold the greatest power. Before we go any further, can I ask you for a small favor? This story took me days to write, record, and edit. Every frame, every emotion, every sound. It costs you nothing to support me, but it truly means everything to me. Please hit the like button and subscribe if you have not, and comment your location below. I want to know where my amazing viewers are watching from. I read every comment, and I will be giving a shout out in my next video. Now back to the story. The alarm never rang. It didn't need to. Sonia's body had memorized the rhythm of survival long ago. 4:30 in the morning. Every single day. No weekends, no holidays, no mercy. She slipped out of bed in the darkness, careful not to wake her son. 6 years old. Still dreaming. Still innocent. Still believing that tomorrow might be easier than today. The kitchen was barely a kitchen. A single burner. A dented pot. Ingredients she'd stretched to last 3 days when they should have lasted one. But Sonia's hands moved with practiced grace, turning scarcity into something that smelled like hope. By 5:30, she was on the street, setting up her stall under the same flickering streetlight that had watched her struggle for the past 3 years. Plantain, rice, stew that was more water than meat. But it was honest. It was hers. And it was enough. Barely. The neighbors whispered as they passed. They always did. Still trying, I see. Poor thing. Should have married better. Raising a child alone, what did she expect? But Sonia had learned to let their words slide off her like rain on leaves. She had something they didn't understand. Something that couldn't be bought or borrowed or stolen. She had a heart that refused to harden. And every morning at exactly 6 o'clock, that heart would prove itself in the most unexpected way. The old woman appeared like a ghost from the morning mist, bent, fragile, moving so slowly that watching her cross the street felt like watching time itself struggle forward. Mama Tolu. That's what Sonia called her, though she'd never told Sonia her name. Never told her anything, really, except for one strange sentence she repeated every single day. The widow would settle onto her torn mat about 10 feet from Sonia's stall. Not close enough to disturb customers. Not far enough to be forgotten. Just there. A presence the world had decided to ignore. And the world did ignore her. People crossed the street to avoid walking near her. Mothers pulled their children away. Vendors shooed her off like a stray dog. And some were crueler. Throwing stones, kicking dirt, laughing at her trembling hands and clouded eyes. But every single morning, without fail, Sonia would fill a plate. More than scraps, an actual meal. Rice, plantain, a piece of chicken when she could afford it. And she'd walk over, kneel down, and place it in those weathered hands. God bless you, my daughter, the widow would whisper, her voice like dried leaves rustling. And then she'd say it, that strange, mysterious line. One day, one day the world will know who you truly are. Sonia would smile, confused but touched, and she'd return to her stall, never asking what the old woman meant, never demanding explanations, just giving. Because that's what her mother had taught her before death took her too soon. Kindness is never wasted, Sonia, even when the world tells you it is. But here's the thing about kindness. It doesn't always announce its arrival with trumpets and applause. Sometimes it works in silence, in shadows, planting seeds you can't see, in soil you didn't know existed. And sometimes those seeds grow into something that changes everything. If you stand for kindness, even when it costs you something, type Amen in the comments right now. It was a Wednesday. The kind of ordinary day that tricks you into thinking nothing significant could possibly happen. Sonia was serving her third customer of the morning when she heard it. The sound of engines. Multiple engines. Expensive engines. 3 black SUVs rolled down the narrow street like predators entering the wrong territory. Chrome gleaming, windows tinted so dark they looked like portals to another dimension. And when they stopped, everyone stopped. The doors opened. First came the security. 3 men built like they ate conflict for breakfast. Then came the assistants. Tablets in hand, earpieces glowing, moving with the efficiency of people paid far too much to care about ordinary humans. And then, she stepped out, Priscilla Adahere. Even if you didn't know the name, you knew the face. Billionaire, entrepreneur, self-made, as she loved to remind everyone. Owner of a tech empire that stretched across 4 continents. Featured in magazines with titles like The Woman Who Refuses to Apologize and Power in Heels, the Priscilla Adahere story. Beautiful in that sharp, untouchable way, the kind of beauty that said, I know I'm better than you and I've made peace with it. She wore white, crisp, spotless, as if poverty itself wouldn't dare stain her. And she was smiling, that camera-ready smile that had launched 1,000 brand deals. Because this wasn't a random visit. Oh no, this was content. A cameraman appeared. Professional equipment, a drone buzzing overhead, an assistant shouting at people to move, to clear space, to be background extras in someone else's story. Good morning, sight. Everyone! Priscilla's voice cut through the morning air like a blade wrapped in velvet. I'm here today as part of my Supporting Local Heroes initiative, because I believe that real change happens when the powerful reach down and lift up the struggling. She said it like she was doing a favor to the universe itself. The crowd gathered, some awed, some skeptical. Sonia just watched, hands still wet from washing dishes, confusion painted across her face. Priscilla approached the stall, cameras following. Her assistant whispered something. Priscilla nodded. You. She pointed at Sonia. What's your name? Sonia, Ma. Sonia, beautiful. Tell me, how long have you been doing this? She gestured vaguely at the stall, the way you might gesture at something unfortunate you discovered on your shoe. 3 years, Ma. 3 years. Incredible. She turned to the camera. See, this is resilience. This is the spirit I'm here to celebrate. She ordered food, a small plate, made a show of tasting it, nodded approvingly like a queen sampling peasant offerings. The cameraman zoomed in on her face. The perfect combination of compassion and superiority. And then, Mama Tolu appeared, moving slowly from her mat, drawn by the commotion. Or perhaps by the smell of food. Or perhaps by something else. Something none of them could see. The widow approached Sonia's stall the way she did every morning, unaware of the cameras, unaware of the audience, just existing. Waiting for the kindness she'd come to depend on. Priscilla noticed her first. Her smile froze just for a second, then twisted into something else. Oh my God, she turned to her assistant, loud enough for everyone to hear. Is she seriously approaching right now? The assistant started to move forward to intercept, but Priscilla held up her hand. No, Wait, let's let's see what happens here. Sonia had already begun filling a plate, the way she always did. Extra rice today. The widow looked thinner than usual. Excuse me. Priscilla's voice had changed, sharper now, the velvet falling away to reveal the blade beneath. What are you doing? Sonia looked up. I'm sorry, Ma. Just giving her food. So, you're running a charity here? Is that what this is? Priscilla laughed. Not the camera laugh. The real one. Cold. Do you know how business works? You're giving away food for free while struggling to survive yourself? She has nobody, Ma, and you what? You think kindness pays rent? Priscilla turned to the camera, making sure every word was captured. This is exactly what's wrong with poverty mindset. Making emotional decisions instead of smart ones. Mama Tolu had stopped moving. Standing frozen 3 feet away, the morning sun illuminating every wrinkle, every scar, every year of suffering carved into her face. Priscilla turned to her, and what happened next would be watched by millions. Screenshotted, memed, analyzed, condemned. You. Priscilla addressed the widow, like she was addressing a problem, not a person. Why don't you have a job? Why are you begging? The widow said nothing, just looked at her with those clouded eyes that had seen too much. This is what's wrong with this country, Priscilla continued, her voice rising. People like you taking handouts, refusing to work, becoming parasites on those who actually contribute to society. Someone in the crowd gasped. The cameraman shifted uncomfortably, but kept filming. Sonia stepped forward. Ma, please. She's not. And you. Priscilla spun on her. You're enabling this. You're the problem. Giving charity to people who don't deserve it, who won't use it to improve themselves. You're not kind. You're foolish. The words hung in the air like poison. Mama Tolu trembled. Not from weakness, from something else. Something that looked almost like recognition. Like she'd seen this before. Like she knew how this story ended. She opened her mouth and spoke. Her voice is stronger than anyone expected. I will pray for you, my daughter, because you are lost in a way money cannot fix. Priscilla's face contorted. Don't you dare! But the widow had already turned away, walking back to her mat with a dignity that shouldn't have been possible for someone wearing rags. Priscilla watched her go, then turned back to the camera, forcing the smile to return. Well, that was, enlightening. Cut that part, please. Let's get another take. But someone was recording. Someone always is. A young man with a phone, standing at the edge of the crowd, capturing everything. Not the official version, the real one, the truth. And in the age of the internet, the truth doesn't ask for permission before it spreads. Before we go on, pause with me for a second. You can scroll past this. You can pretend stories like Sonia's don't happen every day. Or you can subscribe and stand with people the world ignores. Because if we won't spend 2 seconds subscribing to listen to her story, how can we expect anyone to spend 2 seconds showing her compassion? The choice is yours. Now back to the story. The video appeared online at 2:15 that afternoon. By 3 o'clock, it had 50,000 views. By 5 o'clock, 500,000. By midnight, 10 million. And it wasn't slowing down. Priscilla Adigere exposed trended worldwide. The comments section became a digital courtroom. This is who she really is. Treating a homeless woman like trash while pretending to care about the poor. I'll never buy from her companies again. Someone find that widow and that food vendor. They deserve better. News outlets picked it up. Editorials were written. Think pieces published. Within 48 hours, her sponsors began withdrawing, one by one. Like dominoes falling in slow motion. Her board called an emergency meeting. Her employees started a petition. Her investors demanded answers. Priscilla tried to apologize, posted a lengthy statement about being caught in a bad moment and not representing her true values. But the internet doesn't forget, and it rarely forgives. Her empire, built over 15 years, began to crumble in 15 days. But here's what most people didn't know. what the cameras and the headlines and the hashtags missed. While Priscilla's world was collapsing, so was Sonia's. The viral video brought attention, but not all attention is good attention. People came to the street, not to buy food, to stare, to take photos, to turn tragedy into entertainment. That's her! That's the woman from the video. Business slowed, then stopped, then reversed. The landlord heard about the commotion, decided it was bad for the area, raised the rent, then threatened eviction when Sonia couldn't pay. Her son got sick, fever that wouldn't break, coughing that sounded like something breaking inside his small chest. The clinic wanted money up front, money she didn't have, would never have. But still, every single morning, Sonia filled a plate for Mama Tolu, even when she had to skip her own meals, even when her son asked why they were eating less, even when the world seemed determined to punish her for caring. Because some people are built differently. Some people carry light even when they're walking through darkness. "Why do you still feed her, Mama?" her son asked one night, his voice small and confused. Sonia pulled him close. "Because, my love, we don't stop being human just because life gets hard." And then one morning, the widow was gone. Sonia arrived at her usual time, set up her stall, prepared the plate the way she always did, and waited. 6 o'clock came, then 6:15, then 6:30. The mat was empty. The walking stick, a gnarled piece of wood that had supported the widow for who knows how long, lay abandoned in the dirt. Sonia's heart seized. She left her stall, walked the street, asked everyone, the other vendors, the early morning commuters, the security guard who slept in front of the closed shop. "Have you seen her? The old woman who sits here?" Head shakes, shrugs. No one had seen her, or no one cared enough to remember. Sonia spent the entire day searching. The alleys, the church, the old community center, the bridge where homeless people sometimes gathered. Nothing. The widow had vanished like smoke. That night, for the first time in 3 years, Sonia cried. Not because her life was hard, not because her son was sick, not because the rent was due, but because she'd lost her. The one person who'd seen her kindness and called it worthy. The one person who'd made her feel like goodness still mattered. "One day the world will know who you truly are," the widow had always said. But now she was gone, and Sonia wondered if she'd ever know what those words meant. 3 weeks later, the SUVs returned. Same street, same time of morning. But everything else was different. When Priscilla stepped out, the crowd didn't cheer, didn't take photos. They watched in silence, judging, waiting. She looked broken. The designer clothes were gone, replaced with something simple. The makeup lighter. The armor cracked. She'd lost weight. Not the intentional kind. The kind that comes from sleepless nights and guilt that eats you from the inside. No cameras this time. No assistants barking orders. Just her, and a desperation that made her look almost human. She walked straight to Sonia's stall. "Please," she said. Just that one word, and everything it carried. Sonia looked up, recognition flashing across her face. She started to turn away. "Wait," Priscilla's voice broke. "Please, I'm not here for forgiveness. I'm here because I need to find her. The old woman, the widow." Sonia's eyes narrowed. "Why?" "Because," Priscilla's hands shook. "Because I just found out who she is, who she was. And her voice cracked. "I need to see her, before it's too late." "What do you mean, who she was?" Priscilla pulled out a photograph. Worn, decades old. It showed a younger woman, smiling, standing next to someone else. Someone who looked important. Her name is Tolu Oladale. She was my mother's personal helper for 20 years. My mother died 6 months ago. And in her final letter to me, she wrote something I didn't understand at first. She said, "Find Tolu. Honor her. She gave us everything when we had nothing. Sonia stared at the photo, at the young woman who would become the old widow, at the face that still held traces of kindness, even in black and white. My mother left her a portion of her inheritance, Priscilla continued, but I never delivered it, never looked for her. I was too busy, too important, too... She couldn't finish the sentence. And now you want to find her so you can feel better about yourself? No. Priscilla looked up, tears streaming now. I want to find her because, for the first time in my life, I'm terrified that I've wasted everything that actually matters. My mother tried to teach me, she tried to show me, but I was deaf and blind and cruel. And now, she's gone, Sonia said quietly. The words landed like stones in deep water. Gone where? I don't know. She disappeared 3 weeks ago. I've looked everywhere. Priscilla's legs seemed to give out. She caught herself on the edge of the stall. No, no, please, she can't be. I didn't say she was dead. I said she's gone. Something passed between the two women then. An understanding. A recognition of shared loss. Help me find her, Priscilla whispered. Please. If you believe that pride always meets its consequences, type justice in the comments. They searched together. The billionaire and the struggling mother, walking side by side through places Priscilla had never seen, would never have seen if fate hadn't dragged her there by the throat. Under bridges where forgotten people built cities out of cardboard. Through markets where every face held a story of survival. Past clinics that turned away the dying because their pockets were empty. Into shelters that smelled like despair and broken promises. With each step, something in Priscilla cracked further open. I didn't know, she whispered as they walked past a child sleeping on concrete. I didn't know people lived like this. You didn't want to know, Sonia replied. Not cruelly, just truthfully. They talked as they searched. Priscilla told stories she'd never told anyone. About her childhood. About the poverty her mother had escaped. About the way success had hardened her into someone even she didn't recognize anymore. My mother used to say, Priscilla, don't let money make you blind. But I thought she was being dramatic. I thought I was better than her, smarter, stronger. I thought compassion was weakness. And now? Now I think I've been weak all along, just too proud to see it. Sonia listened, shared her own stories. About her husband who left, about raising a child alone, about choosing kindness even when it made life harder. Don't you ever get tired? Priscilla asked. Don't you ever just want to stop caring? Every single day, Sonia admitted. But then I remember that the world is already full of people who've stopped caring, and I refuse to become one more. They searched for 2 days, asked hundreds of people, followed false leads and dead ends. And slowly, impossibly, the two women who should have been enemies became something else. Allies, almost friends. They found her on the 3rd day, in an abandoned shop at the edge of the city, lying on the ground covered with a thin blanket someone had left behind. Breathing but barely, skin gray, lips cracked, the kind of weak that means the body is shutting down. Sonia ran to her, fell to her knees. Mama Tolu, please. The widow's eyes opened, clouded but still aware, still present. My daughter, she whispered. You came. Why did you leave? Why didn't you tell me? Because my time is near, and I wanted to see if kindness would bring you together. Her eyes shifted to Priscilla, who stood frozen in the doorway. Come, child. Don't stand in the shadows anymore. Priscilla approached like someone walking toward judgment. She fell to her knees beside Sonia. I'm sorry, she choked out. I'm so sorry. For everything. For who I've been. For what I said. For... The widow lifted one trembling hand, placed it on Priscilla's head. I have waited for you, she said, not for apology, but so you could finally see the truth. What truth? That your mother learned the same lesson you're learning now. She was once like you, proud, certain, cold, until life broke her open and showed her what matters. Tears poured down Priscilla's face. She never told me, because she wanted you to find your own way, to fall, to break, to be rebuilt by your own choices. The widow coughed, her body shaking. She gave me everything when I had nothing, not because she pitied me, but because she finally understood that giving is how we stay human. She turned to Sonia. And you, my precious daughter, you fed me when you could barely feed yourself. You showed me that the world is not yet lost, that there are still hearts that choose light even in darkness. Please don't leave, Sonia whispered. I have lived long enough to see what I needed to see. Two women from different worlds, kneeling together in this forgotten place. Learning, growing, becoming. She looked between them both. Promise me something, both of you. Anything, they said in unison. Promise me you will remember that wealth means nothing if your heart is empty. That poverty is not what you have in your pocket, but what you lack in your spirit. And that the greatest inheritance you can leave this world is the kindness you showed when no one was watching. Sonia squeezed her hand. Priscilla wept openly, and Mama Tolu closed her eyes, not in pain, not in fear, but in peace. The kind of peace that comes when you've completed what you were meant to do. She died in that abandoned shop, held by two women whose lives she'd changed forever. If this moment touched you, comment, "Rest in peace, Mama Tolu." The funeral was unlike anything the neighborhood had ever seen. Priscilla paid for everything, not as a publicity stunt, not for cameras or attention, but because it was right, because it was overdue, because a woman who'd given everything deserved more than a pauper's grave. The casket was beautiful, the ceremony was dignified, and people came. Hundreds of them. Strangers who'd heard the story, who'd followed the journey online, who'd learned the truth about the widow who changed a billionaire's heart. Sonia spoke first, about kindness without conditions, about choosing light even when darkness felt easier. Then Priscilla stood, her voice steady now, changed. I came looking for this woman to give her money, an inheritance I thought would fix my guilt. But she gave me something far more valuable. She gave me truth. She gave me sight. She gave me the chance to become the person my mother always hoped I'd be. She paused, looking out at the faces watching her. I'm using what's left of my wealth to create the Tolu Oladel Foundation. To feed the homeless, to support single mothers, to honor the forgotten. Not because it will make me famous again, not because it will rebuild my empire, but because a frail old woman sat on a mat and showed me that the only measure of a life is how many people you helped when you had the power to hurt them instead. She looked at Sonia, and I'm asking this woman, who showed me what strength really looks like, to lead it with me. The crowd erupted in applause. Months passed, seasons changed. The street where Sonia once struggled alone now had a community center, a clinic, a school, built by Priscilla's money and Sonia's heart. Priscilla's empire never fully recovered. Some sponsors never returned. Some doors stayed closed. But she built something new, something smaller, something that mattered more. She and Sonia became partners, not out of guilt or obligation, but out of genuine respect, friendship even. They employed the vendors who'd once watched in silence. They housed the homeless who'd once been invisible. They educated the children who'd once been forgotten. And every single morning at 6 o'clock, they set up a table in front of that community center, and they served food. To anyone who needed it, to everyone who came, free. No questions asked, no conditions required. And sometimes, when the morning sun hit just right, Sonia would swear she could hear that familiar voice on the wind. One day, the world will know who you truly are. And finally, she understood. Because here's the truth that poverty teaches and privilege forgets. Kindness is the only wealth the grave cannot steal. Pride is the fire that burns its owner first. And sometimes, the poorest widow can change the richest heart. The world will tell you to be smart, to protect yourself, to save your kindness for people who deserve it. But the widow knew something the world forgot, that we are all one bad day away from needing mercy, that we are all capable of both cruelty and compassion, and that the choice between them is the only choice that truly defines us. Sonia chose kindness when she had nothing to give. Priscilla chose pride when she had everything to lose. And a homeless widow, forgotten by the world, became the bridge between them, teaching both women the same lesson in different ways, that you cannot measure a life by what you accumulate, but by what you give away when no one is watching. That true wealth is not counted in bank accounts, but in the number of people who remember your kindness when you're gone. And that sometimes the greatest inheritance you can leave behind is a heart that refused to let the world make it cruel. So let me ask you something. If you were in Sonia's shoes, starving yourself to feed someone the world had forgotten, would you keep going? Would you keep giving? Even when it hurt? Even when no one noticed? Even when life punished you for caring? Tell me in the comments. Be honest. And if this story touched something in you, if it made you think differently, if it reminded you of something you'd forgotten about what it means to be human, then subscribe. Not for me, but because you deserve more stories like this. Stories that challenge you, stories that change you, stories that refuse to let you forget that kindness still matters in a world that's forgotten how to be kind. Hit that subscribe button. Turn on notifications, and let's build something together. Because the world doesn't need more billionaires or success stories or viral moments. The world needs more people who will fill a plate for a stranger, who will kneel in the dirt beside someone the world has abandoned, who will choose compassion even when cruelty is easier. The world needs more Sonias and fewer people who have to fall as far as Priscilla did to learn what should have been obvious all along. So what will you choose? Comment below, subscribe, and let's keep this conversation going. Because this isn't just a story, it's a mirror, and what you see in it is up to you.